Beyond Rock in a Hard Place. This is part two, and this video, which is in around half an hour long, is a series of videos that I've taken with a metallurgy microscope centering on an animal that I call the Sisiutl. Otherwise, I've called it the glass worm, glass snake or serpent, the rock worm, snake or serpent. It is a very small, around millimeter long animal that I sort of stumbled upon very early into looking at rocks with the metallurgy microscope. So feel free to like, comment, subscribe, or donate and support at the PayPal address provided, paypal.me/beyondrock. My name is Wolfgang, so without further ado, this is part two, the Sisiutl. So just to give you a quick rundown on what you'll be seeing here, several clips that I've compiled over the years using the metallurgy microscope, looking primarily at rocks, and basically after having noticed that this was in fact a live animal, I started to capture some video of it. So you'll see several different specimens, and now the first thing you should know is I'm provoking movement of this animal with the finger. So you'll notice in some clips I'll bring an inanimate object like a pen tip up close to it. It will not display any movement. It will only start to display movement, characteristic animal movements, when I bring the finger in close to it. So every time you observe this animal moving, you'll also notice a little bit of shaking, a little bit of blurring. This is because I'm bringing my finger in close to it. So I've had some people, some peers, suggest that this could be some sort of static electrical attraction or disturbance of whatever these are. At first I thought they were simply filings or strands present on the rock. The very first thing I did notice was that they tend to get in the way of taking a good picture of the rock. They were immediately I noticed these filings. I think it was just having a keen eye, which is why I noticed the movement in the first place. So then I recognized that they exhibit movement or are stimulated by the introduction of, say, my finger or any other animate object. I guess I've actually had a fly in close to these Sisiutl. I introduced a fruit fly in close to these guys. They are, I strongly believe, to be carnivorous. They pretty much exist on every rock that I've observed to date. So I can say pick a rock, I can look at it under the microscope, and you will certainly find at least one of these animals. So I do feel that this animal, perhaps overlooked, perhaps completely overlooked in our history, also in our history of observing rock and whatever miscellaneous items with a microscope. I'd be surprised to think that these haven't been seen or observed or cataloged. But I've had no luck in finding anything regarding these animals. So just a quick description. As you've already seen here, a few clips, you see a blue specimen here. This one's quite strange, sort of stands on two ends. They're not necessarily anchored to the rock. You'll see a few of them actually are not quite appended to the rock, but they're resting on it. You'll see several examples in all different colors. I think I've covered the spectrum of colors from what I've observed over the past couple of years. So the characteristics, the strongest characteristics you might notice now, in some examples like here, very hard to discern these characteristics, but generally what you'll see is a seahorse or a horse looking head or snout, um, usually with a horn above the head, and several sections down from its head along the elongate body is usually an appendage that hangs off of the elongate body. You'll see in the specimens, you'll see the ones where you can discern greater detail, such as equidistant sections along the elongate body. You'll see the snout, the seahorse-looking snout at the end of its length. Oftentimes you'll see this horn sort of feature. You'll see these animals compounded together. A lot of different types. I've also seen these animals to have self-decorating sort of, their prey is decorated along the length, so they seem to adorn the bodies of past prey or whatever along the length, perforated right through along its length. It's kind of hard to explain, but so certainly they're displaying characteristic serpent-like movements. I don't believe it's simply just a physical, say, electrical attraction to my finger. I'm not playing any tricks in these videos whatsoever. None of these videos are altered either. They're all shown as they were originally taken. Now, again, you'll see this length with equidistant sections or horns or barbs. And on the ones that are a little bit bigger, you'll be able to notice a distinct head or snout shape at the end. The ones that display movements are generally very small, and I've observed what I believe to be older, bigger examples. I believe them to be either very passive or dormant or even dead, fossilized. They're usually seen on rocks to be brown, sort of woody in color, and the details are very very noticeable on those examples. But in this video, I'm just basically showing that there are animals on whatever rock you observe. These Sisiutl, or glass worm that I call, they are definitely displaying lifelike motions. As you can see here, there are some red types, often clear, blue, green, purple, pink, black, etc. So, and as I said, you'll see them compounded together. Oftentimes, even different colorations that are grouped together. You can see here that distinct horn on the head of this blue example here. Now, I'm not sure on this, but I do tend to call it the glass serpent or glass snake. My guess is that these animals are silicate based. I'm not totally sure on that. That's just my guess. I've found these animals, like I said, on every rock I've observed, and even a large boulder that I had cut in half at one point, around a 200-pound boulder that I took out of the bottom of the lake. So, are they aquatic creatures? If they're living on the inside of a giant boulder. What are they breathing? What are they eating? That I'm not quite sure. So my guess is that they are they could be extremophiles. They can live at very low metabolism and survive for a very long time. That's just my guess. And as I said, I don't think anything is really documented or known on this particular animal that you're seeing here. So again, I call this the Sisiutl. Why the Sisiutl? Well, once I started to observe this animal, it sort of correlated with a lot of native legends, Native American, Native Canadian legends, describing a very similar type of animal, though much larger in the past. You just saw there, I wanted to mention that if you're handling rocks with your bare hands, you'll notice that your hands are full of these things afterwards. And I'm not sure if they could be very harmful in any way, but in any case, it kind of prompted me to wear gloves immediately after discovering these on every rock sample that I looked at through the microscope. So, but over time, I kind of got used to just handling the rocks as I normally did. But like I said, if you look at your fingers under the microscope, they're full of these guys. So I do feel that they're attracted to living living organisms. I feel that they're carnivorous, and they are certainly capable of getting on your fingers. Now, are these animals exclusive to living on rock or in rock? I don't think so. I believe these animals are basically everywhere. They're all over us at any given point. They're all over our clothes, all over our furniture. They seem to like glass. So what surprises me is how this animal could have gone overlooked for so long. And while I feel that this could be the most numbered animal in the world, there could be more of these particular animal than anything else that we know. So other features you might notice, as you saw in that past clip, sometimes you might notice a little bit of a tongue. I do tend to notice eyes, but then again, these examples here that are displaying movement that I have in this video are very small and very hard to discern any real visible characteristics. The eyes, I'd like to think that they are very large. That's just my guess, but like I said, these guys are very small. I'd probably need a higher powered microscope to properly observe it. So they seem to be very strong. They rest sort of, oftentimes you'll see them resting upward vertically. They can support their own weight with the strength of their elongate body. They have displayed a lot of surprising behavior, to be honest. Sometimes they display very quick movements. And yeah, so as I was mentioning about the Sisiutl, why I tend to call it the Sisiutl is there's a Native American legend that describes an animal that is much larger, obviously to be noticed, described as a shining serpent-like horse-headed creature that isn't necessarily predatory, but can lure you in closer with, I guess, the power of its gaze or something like that. Described to have a horn on its head, large eyes, a horse-like snout, and horns like a stag, I guess, in often cases. But in any case, once I stumbled upon this animal, it really prompted me to look into all these serpent mythologies around the world. And it wouldn't surprise me that this particular species perhaps has dwarfed in size over time. So species dwarfism, or whatever it's called. Perhaps their food source has diminished greatly over time, and so perhaps the species is presently very small. We no longer have any, say, human-sized examples, or even and you know, these large serpentine animals have been described in many in a lot of old literature, and including the Bible. So I correlate this animal with the description of, say, for example, the brazen serpent, Moses' brazen serpent. Also the Jorgmunder, the world serpent, as described by the Swedes in history. Of course, I mentioned the Sisiutl. There are also many other variations, similar descriptions of mythological animals by Native American and Native Canadian peoples. And of course, legends of the Naga in Sri Lanka correlate greatly with the characteristics displayed here by this microscopic animal. So I could actually believe that perhaps that this animal was much larger in the past. It certainly is very numbered. You'll find them everywhere. And upon discovering this animal, really opened me up to a lot of other understandings, which I might touch on in another video. But this is a very important animal. Like I said, surprising that it was overlooked for so long. I can't actually believe that for however many people have observed anything in a microscope in the past, have never noticed this animal. And it might be easy to overlook just noticing these filings or strands, here and there on the surface of the rock. I can see why. They're very small, but yeah, it wasn't long until I realized that these animals are displaying characteristic serpent-like movements. They're coiling, they're elongating, they're bending on different points of their elongate body. They really are, and that goes for all of my peers that have seen this in person. They across the board, they all agree that yeah, this is certainly an animal we're looking at. Now, silicate based, like say the glass sponge is an animal that exists today. That is it's a silicate based animal. I believe it's something like 99% glass. It wouldn't surprise me if these animals you're seeing here living on or in the rocks could very well be rock or silicate based as well. This is a really neat example here. This black specimen here, really shiny. That shine sort of tends to give me the impression that perhaps they're glass or rock based animals. So you can see, oftentimes you see a horn at the end. It's sort of hard to discern what exactly these particular features are. When you zoom in, unfortunately, the features get a little bit distorted. So best viewing is actually as it is right here. Now, do strongly feel that they're carnivorous animals. I feel that they can rest dormant or at a level of low metabolism for who knows, for as long as they need to. But now, that being said, I've seen uh, larger specimens, or at least what I believe to be larger examples of this animal here. The larger ones that I've seen, and I've been able to really look at the wild features on this animal. The ones that you can really notice feature, the bigger examples, they're brown, they're woody like in color, they're not displaying any movement. They appear to be fossilized or dead, or perhaps even just dormant. So it's only these little guys that are displaying these movements. Now, how small are they? Well, you can take a small piece of gravel, small rock. If you were to hold it up to the sun and look at it with the naked eye, you might be able to see a small fiber, much finer than a hair, but somewhere in around 1 millimeter, maybe 2 millimeters long. If it is any longer, from my observation, those are fossilized or perhaps dead specimens of this same animal. The ones that are very small, that are displaying movement, would be very hard to see with the naked eye. And so I'm not playing any camera tricks here or anything like that. I'm not forcing or prompting its movement by shaking the rock or touching it with my finger. I'm just trying to get my finger in close, and that's what really gets this thing moving. You'll see in a few clips, perhaps coming up, where I've tried to introduce like the tip of a throwing dart in close to the animal. The animal doesn't react. The animal doesn't react to a pencil or a pen. The animal only seems to react to a finger. So that's what got me thinking that this is a carnivorous. I hate to say parasitic, because a lot of my peers have been sort of categorizing this animal as a parasite. I think it's sort of a bit of a demeaning term. Not a big fan of the word, but in any case, they're very interesting animals. They come in all different colors. I'd say this is probably the only animal that I've ever known that could appear in so many different colors. In just say a 10-minute sitting with a box of rocks, you'll find all sorts. Like I said, you'll cover the spectrum in coloration for these guys. They're usually monochromatic. They're usually one color. You'll see a lot of different specimens side by side on the same rock that have different coloration. Oftentimes you'll observe a rock where most of them present on that particular rock are sharing sort of similar coloration. And I've seen some wild colors. I've seen some neon purple examples, some neon pink, blue, black, orange, red, the rest. So now, as for shape, you will also see a lot of variation. You'll never see totally similar looking examples. They range, as you've seen, from a very simple elongate body where you could barely discern any head or any features along the length of it. Very simple, just usually like a clear strand, and you don't notice any change in shape along the entire elongate. Now, there's a whole range, and that ranges up to where you can notice the horn on its head, the characteristic horse or seahorse-like snout, and a few sections up, you can count these equidistant barbs that hang off of the elongate body. You might have already noticed this repetition of an appendage hanging off its body. Now back to the legend of the Sisiutl. The Native Americans, I believe it was the Ho-Chunk tribe, who said this mythological creature could not be killed with an arrow if struck in the head. You had to aim 6 sections down from its head at an appendage hanging from its body, which was believed to be its heart, and if you were to strike that with the arrow, that's how you would kill the animal, if you're threatened by it or whatever it be. So now, could I believe that this animal was much larger in the past, larger than, say, human-sized and beyond? Oh, certainly. I believe that they were also much, much larger. I'd like to touch upon that in another video. But I just wanted to introduce this animal. Like I said, I'd be very surprised if no one has ever observed it, if the animal has not been cataloged. Yeah, very strange. But as I said, if you're curious, just grab any rock whatsoever. I'm not sure if this is specific to Greater Sudbury, Ontario, Canada geography, but my guess is that any rock will have these animals present on them. They certainly like glass too, or glassy rock. They also like factory glass. If you pick up broken factory glass outside, look at it in the microscope, it's riddled with these animals. You'll often see them in clumps, many different colors, types, clumped together. I guess that's depending on how available nutrition is. As I said, I don't know how they breathe, whether they go without eating for an eternity. Like I said, I cut a large boulder in half with a masonry saw and found these animals to be living on the inside, the core of the rock itself. So there could be some type of nutrition present in the rock, even. It wouldn't surprise me, but enough for these guys to live for however long, hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of years, not quite sure. So now I hope that this provokes some further discourse pertaining to this animal. I believe it's a very important animal. I believe we've sort of overlooked a lot of our mythological creatures as far too imaginative, and there certainly is a real strong correlation of this serpent mythology all around the world, from North America, South America, Europe, Asia, and Australia and Africa. So you'll find serpent mythology everywhere. As I said, I believe that they're much larger. They could very well have been much larger in the past. Yeah, and I if I had to make a guess, I would think that there are more of this animal on Earth than basically any other animal. It's got to be up there, because it's sort of impossible to look at a rock without seeing any of these present on it. Oftentimes it's hard to maybe find one that's displaying very characteristic movement. You'll find them all over the place, but it's hard to get the finger in close to provoke the animal, or close enough to provoke it. So call them what you will, parasitic, carnivorous. I just like to think they're carnivorous. I'm not sure if they're harmful to people, if they're introduced to the hands. Who knows if you can swallow them. I've actually looked into this. They are certainly all over our bodies. I mean, not all over, but there's got to be at least a few on everyone's body. Is my guess. So I hope you've enjoyed the video. Again, I call this animal the Sisiutl. Grab a microscope, look at a rock under the microscope, find one of these strand-looking things that you might not notice to be an animal at first. You will certainly notice that it is an animal. It displays all different types of movement. Sometimes appended into the rock, sometimes not, sometimes just laying upon it. Like that, sometimes displaying quick movements. They look, to me, oftentimes that they are helical in shape. They're very flattened, and I'm not sure if they're helical as in twisted in shape. As I said, I need a much more powerful microscope to really get to the fine details of this creature. But I've been fortunate enough to observe these animals on a frequent basis. It's been probably a couple of years. I've been really procrastinating on putting this video out there. It's not the easiest thing to do, narrating over this type of thing. So, in any case, thank you for watching. I call this animal the Sisiutl, or the glass snake or serpent. Any questions or comments, feel free.